caged bird thing. It's not my thing. I'm literally, my symbol is a freaking half man. Can't do the caged bird thing. It's not.
LGBTQ plus perspective. A talk show for working LGBTQ plus individuals and allies who are active in their own communities and who also wish to stay woke about what's happening in today's world. With your host, Sean Nicholas. I'm still sour for not winning this little acting award in high school. I'm still sour. Angelique Young.
I can't do the caged bird thing. It's not my thing. I'm literally, my symbol.
Nikki Prue.
Like, in my opinion, this woman should already out of the house and moved on and forgetting about this man.
This is common courtesy.
That was
Buffalo
doomed from the start.
Bolton and shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
From the start.
Around Sue's or whatever, and
No, that was me.
but that's our stereo.
So, let's start the conversation. This is an opinion-based show, not a news outlet. The views and opinions of the guests on Common Courtesy TV solely reflect their opinion and or experience and not of Common Courtesy TV or any of its affiliates or hosts. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Common Courtesy TV, a conversation on modern society from an LGBTQ plus perspective. I'm your host and moderator, Sean Nicholas. I'm an actor. I am a sobriety advocate. I've been sober from alcoholism for a year and some change now. I'll talk about that a little bit more in our season. Welcoming back to our show today are my awesome co-hosts. We have, first up, we have the original co-host, and we have one of my really good friends. Please welcome back to our panel. We have entrepreneur Nikki Prue. Hello, Nikki.
Hello. How are you guys?
We're good. We're
Excited
good.
to be
Good.
back with you.
I'm excited to see you, Angelique. I feel like it's been I see you in our group messages, but it's been forever since I've seen your beautiful face live. So
Love you. Thanks.
And with that, please also welcome back our amazing co-host who's been traveling all over Florida making social changes, especially with Drag to Tally these past couple of recent weeks. Please welcome back activist and show director and performer. We have, Angelique Young.
Hi, hey, everybody. I go by many names. I wear many hats. It's totally fine. No, I'm super excited to be back. It's been a lot of time on the road, but there's truth to the saying, there's no place like home. Happy to be with you guys again, especially for this topic. This is going to be a good one.
Absolutely. And so the topic today, before I introduce our guest, the topic who is Nikki Silva, who's a performer here locally in our Bay Area. We're talking about last week's episode, which got a lot of buzz, and even a cease and desist letter from Zoe's. So I kind of wanted to react to what everyone heard, and some people reached out to me about what was said, and a really good source, anonymous source, who's going to remain anonymous, sent a letter. So we're going to read that letter on the show, and then we're going to react to it, and then we're going to share a story from Nikki. But I wanted to go to my co-host and ask you guys, a little bit about what you heard and saw. Let me go to Nikki.
I feel like it was just a big list of things that don't belong in a workplace, really. There just seemed to be a lot of tellings of hostility and, mild harassment and bullying and just things that I would not ever imagine to be present at all in what I heard most about was supposed to be considered a safe space. Like a safe space for everyone, and which would mean bullying should be the furthest thing from the front door, let alone by somebody who is in charge. So it just kind of made me sad. the last listening to just all the stories from the last episode, which I was really, really glad to hear about, to be enlightened about, because I honestly didn't, I'm not as, in the know of the community. So I really didn't know much about this or anything that was going on. And it made me really sad because it seemed like the undertone was like a lot of people who really, really loved working there and really it meant something to them and they wanted to build something really great and wonderful and, like I said, and safe and amazing. And it's all these people are being let down, and that's it's I don't know. It makes me angry and it makes me sad on their behalf.
I mean, like allegedly, like this all happened. Like, I guess
Allegedly,
this is
from the
this is
stories
all.
that I heard.
For me personally, hearing about the stories, I mean, I come from the restaurant industry. I worked in that. I think all of us have some point in time have been at a restaurant where a manager or an assistant manager or a supervisor or a team leader or somebody, is not quite the best fit, but they get shit done. So a lot of times people will sweep under the carpet how they treat other individuals. I've never experienced anything on this level where it's been the owner or somebody allegedly that's doing something like this. Usually it's somebody who's on a little bit of a high horse, not somebody who's on other sides of it. But I had noticed the few times I've gone to Zoe's, the morale of the employees is not as high as it probably could have been, or it's not as good as it probably could have been. When you sit down and you talk to the bartenders or the servers, I just experienced a kind of light that clicks on when I connect with people, but is not on from the time I walk through the door. And then in hearing not only Nikki's story, but other entertainers' stories who work there, who have been there, who are no longer there, all the above, whatever have you. I've just started to realize like a little bit of difference in like how the company runs. I remember the first time I ever performed at the building or at the establishment, I remember that everybody was kind of in a good spirit, and then they heard that the owner was coming and the alignment went differently. It's very much in akin to The Devil Wears Prada, how everybody's like in a good mood, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, she's coming, and the whole restaurant changed, and the whole even the entertainers that were booked there were under a certain amount of stress or a certain amount of pressure to be a certain way during the show. And as an entertainer who comes in, I come to do my job, you notice that vibe, you notice that feeling change. And so I haven't spent more than 5 minutes with this man. I really don't know him from a hole in the wall. But when people change like that, it makes you weary of how that person is. Even if they present themselves in a good way, even if the first impression is good, you kind of have this kind of feeling in the back of your head that maybe this isn't how they are all the time. In my last visit there, I noticed that he was not there, but I still noticed that the dissension in the building was kind of light. People were kind of like a little bit on edge, it felt like almost. But I will say that the staff that I have encountered at that particular location has always been wonderful to me. I haven't had any particularly bad instances, but I am a rather lucky individual usually, so I don't ever put that up to anything but luck. So I'm excited to hear the rest of Nikki's story directly from her mouth and see where we go
Right.
from there.
And so, without further ado, let's invite a local performer who's been a rising name in our community. Please welcome to our panel once again. We have Nikki Silva.
Hi, hi, hi. Glad to be back.
Welcome back.
So, Nikki, you've
Sorry
shared
for
your
such situation.
yes, Nikki, you've shared your story on social media, and there's
Yes.
some NDAs involved and things like that. Some things that you cannot
Yeah.
talk about, which I think is juicy, because then you can't like have a story like that, NDAs and cease and desist letters. It's almost like Stormy Daniels and what's going on with the president, who, by the way, just got lost his civil suit. That's $5 million from him. Just had to throw that in because I'm petty. So, anyways, you said a lot on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You said a lot on social media about what was going on, but I wanted to ask you, because we spoke on the phone, the veracity of what Lilith said. What would you have to say? Is it true, or like is there allegedly? How close to it is the truth?
Well, you can throw allegedly out the window when it comes to some things that Lilith did speak of last week. As many people know, it was common knowledge, I was the show director from its conception, and I dealt with a lot of midnight phone calls, a lot of conversations. I worked with Jeff very, very intently. And his attitude towards the trans community was pretty shitty, to say the least. I mean, the situation that Lilith was talking about with James Cass goes a little deeper than just, nobody wants to see those ugly scars. James would come in and perform and captivate that entire audience, and they were just like up dancing, cutting up, kikiing, and he would just come up to me, oh, he's such a shitty performer, he's boring, da da da. I mean, and it wasn't just the trans entertainers, it was almost every entertainer Cleo or I booked. He had either positive or negative comments, and he would always come up to us while they're on stage.
I wanted to read, this letter that someone sent to me because we wanted to come to the show, but they had some reservations. So I said, why don't you write a letter and I'll read it for you. And I want to get your reaction from this. So here we go. My statement regarding working for and with Jeff Baker, aka Zoie's. From almost the moment I was hired, I was subjected to mental abuse in the forms of lies and deceit, marginalization of work experience, behind the back sabotage and slander. Threats of terminating me to others, name calling, stupid and dumb were often used, screaming at me and others, conniving and manipulation tactics, divisive leadership trying to play us against one another, menacing verbal assault and mental degradation, gaslighting myself and others, excessively harsh criticism. I feel what is being done now, meaning the cease and desist letters, is just a form of bullying people that have been bullied almost their whole life by simply being who they are. That is not conducive as a safe place or safe environment to work in. So that's what this person who worked closely in the higher up at Zoie's or anywhere in Zoie's with Jeff, that's what this person had to say. I kind of wanted to ask first Nikki. Let me go to you. I was going to go to you guys first, but let me go to Nikki. Like, how much of that do you agree with this letter, or how do you react hearing that?
In a simple word, yes.
Right.
100%. I was around for a lot of it in the beginning, and it wasn't just them. It was everyone involved.
Okay. You know what? Before I go to you guys, we're going to take a quick little commercial break, and we're going to hear from Tampa Bay Gay and Dave Borman and what is going on in our Bay Area community. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Dave with Tampa Bay Gay. We're down here at Bulge's second location on Central Avenue in St. Pete. We're going to run inside and check things out while you check out this week's LGBTQ plus events.
On May 10th, the Tampa Fringe Festival opens in Ybor City. The festival runs through May 14th. There are 32 shows over 5 days. Gotta watch them all. Get tickets, reserve seats, and plan your trip. Come support the 2023 Tampa Fringe. Events for those 55 plus, join the Epics Generations group and find new ways to move your body and ease tension. Chair Yoga is on May 9th at the St. Pete location, and on May 11th is the Veterans Coffee Connection. Come socialize and get info on resources available to you. And on Sunday, May 14th, we wish you a happy Mother's Day. But for those who find this to be a difficult time of the year, Found Family Collective presents Mourning on Mother's Day, a queer and trans healing event. If you feel you might need to be there, this space is for you. Get your free tickets now. And finally, on May 14th, cool off your Sunday and support Come Out St. Pete at Casa del Merman for their pool party fundraiser. The entire 2023 court will be performing. There are pool games, 50-50 raffle, hot dogs, and more. Let's get wet. The party starts at 1. Check out the newest selections and exclusives available at Bulge St. Pete. Stop by and say hi.
I've made my purchases. Get down here and check out Bulge's new place. Thanks for watching. We'll see everybody next week.
Visit TampaBayGay.com for local events, the latest digital content, and more. Also, please like, share, and subscribe.
I want to go to my co-hosts now who, I love them. I would love to hear what they have to say. First off, I'm going to go to Angelique. Angelique, what did you think about the letter?
I think that when given the opportunity to to do something anonymously, I think that people tend to speak more freely and more candidly. I think that when, you have to speak anonymously about something, that says a lot about how you feel or the power you feel someone else may have over you in your future. And I also think that when multiple people speak to something, it can't possibly be just a disgruntled employee. It can't possibly just be someone who's sensitive, and it can't possibly just be somebody who doesn't have what it takes, have the guts to stick it out. I think that a lot of people put up with a lot of things at work, but this particular list is very unsettling. It's very upsetting to hear that people are enduring this kind of treatment from an individual in a place that's supposed to be a safe place. A place that wants the respect of the community, a place that wants the involvement of the community, but you're not treating your own miniature community the way it needs to be treated. Any business that you have, people should be coming in there being, oh my God, I love my job. I love working here. It's so much fun. The people are fun. The business is fun. Like, we get so much respect. I think that's something that I take pride in with a lot of the jobs that I've had in the past, including my current one. So I think to hear this is just really it really changes how I feel personally about that particular restaurant. It doesn't matter how, in this climate, in this day and age, with everything that's going on, it doesn't matter how good your food is. It doesn't matter how good your drinks are. It doesn't matter any of that. If the place is not treating the employees well, it's not a place I want to be. And if this had happened to these employees that are not there, now I worry about the employees that are there. And what kind of measures they're taking to avoid this kind of treatment, or to not see this kind of treatment that's making them want to stay.
Obviously, I don't have a personal claim in this situation. I'm the only one who does not. But as an outside perspective, I agree 100% with everything Angelique just said. About like these. You deserve to love your job, or at least like your job. Especially if you're like enjoy it. Yes, enjoy it and find fun in it. But above all, be safe and not feel as if you're walking under a verbal firing squad every time you come into work, or sometimes even worse, just fearing what is going to happen and not knowing what that's going to be. I think it's a terrible feeling to have to dread when the owner of your business comes in to the job. Like, nobody wants to feel that. It just leaves you on edge all the time. And I'll bet they are on edge a lot. And it's sad to me. And I think another point that Angelique made that I also agree with is that anonymous is always going to be more honest for the most part. And if these are just the small handful of people that are speaking up, what else has not been said? And what else are the people who still work there going to have to face? It just gives me a very, very uneasy, sad, and just, all around disturbing feeling. And I feel for them.
And like I said, last episode, I said, when we talk about these things, someone comes out, for me, it's never to destroy your person. I think there's always a way to come back, and try to because you only have one life to live, and we all make mistakes. Me being a recovering alcoholic, baby, there's so many that, but what I wouldn't do, if someone ever tried to call me out on something I've done, back in my mental illness, what I wouldn't do is try to silence people, because that means you're afraid of the truth, and you're afraid of, people looking at you differently instead of taking accountability. I agree with all of you guys and what you guys said. I would have to ask, if there's all these NDAs and cease and desist letters, there's something you're obviously trying to hide, and there's some more that, we can undig. I'm only going to spend one more episode on this, but, I'm glad we're here having this conversation. I wanted to go to Nikki, speaking of being under a verbal firing squad. Now, the story that you told me, I have heard this story from another source because, I'm just that person to everybody. I'm like Oprah. They're like, I got to tell you this. And it's funny enough that Lilith also said the same story off camera and off the record. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to share as much as you can about the story, because some of this stuff kind of hits into your NDA about talking about the backstory, but this started at a rehearsal for the beginning of the whole thing at the restaurant, the opening at the restaurant. Can you tell us what happened at that rehearsal?
Yes. So I was hired on for some projects that we would do throughout the year. And a lot of them included big shows. And one of the first projects I was tasked on doing was a huge passion project of mine. Huge. I actually spent a good 6 months, working out the script, working out all the kinks, casting, all that. Our very first rehearsal, Jeff came in with to observe, see how things were going to go, to check, can she actually handle this kind of, which, I appreciated a lot. I valued his input. We began.
And he's supposed to, because he's your executive producer and he's paying for it. So that's something that I would do with this show. If you're, you have my name on it, I'm going to come. And that's normal.
Yeah. About, I want to say maybe 30 minutes into the rehearsal, he left with one of my actor's boyfriends and went down to cocktail. We continued rehearsing. I want to say maybe about an hour after he left, he had come back in. We were in the middle of rehearsing one of the opening scenes, and he just completely was irate, interrupted the entire rehearsal, turned off the backing track, and just started screaming, "Wait a minute, why is nobody actually speaking? Why are you guys lip syncing? Nikki, this is not what we agreed to, da 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 da." And I'm just standing there in front of, 10 other actors, oh my God, I don't even know how to handle this situation right now. Mm-hmm. So I just told everybody, I said, we're going to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to go outside, smoke a cigarette. Hopefully he calms down. Me and him will have a private conversation. We'll finish rehearsal. So I went outside and he follows me out there, and I'm trying to smoke a cigarette and calm down. And he comes up to me and gets in my face, slaps the cigarette out of my mouth after I just lit it, and said, "You're supposed to be on brand every minute, every day, every time you are representing me or this establishment. How dare you light up a cigarette right now?" Da, da, da. And I just looked at him dead in the face and I said, "Jeff, if you are going to continue to act like this, I will resign from my position and you can find somebody else who will take this over." And he just looked at me completely stunned. And he said, "Well, if you walk out this door, you're not getting your job back. Good luck going anywhere in the community," and starts, throwing little things that people say about me in my face to belittle me and tear me down. So I just looked right at him, and you know how I am. I'm from New York. I'm a pistol. I looked right at him and I said, "You know what, Jeff? You can go fuck yourself." I walked inside. I grabbed my things and I looked at all the entertainers. I said, things are a little heated. We're going to call it a night. I'm going to figure some things out and I'll get back to you. He storms back into the rehearsal space and he's just demanding certain things get done and trying to talk to all the actors well, why is this not happening? Why are you guys, I don't want some lip synced drag show, blah, 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 blah. So it kept going on, and I'm just packing everything up. And another entertainer, we haven't really spoke. I hope he's comfortable with me sharing his name. Vin Suasion actually spoke up and was just like, "Jeff, it's clear that you're drunk. What you're doing to Nikki and all these actors right now is not okay. I really think you should just go home, sleep it off, calm down, and have a serious conversation with the people you need to tomorrow."
Right.
And right after that, we all grabbed our things and we left.
I'm sorry. I just want to get back into the story of the rehearsal, but that's where you're saying that this is what we want to focus on a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're saying that allegedly, this other performer that we kind of know, Mr. Vince Suasion, came up to Jeff and said, it's obviously that you're drunk right now, and that's perhaps why he came in after the second time after going to cocktails and reacting like that. Was that your same impression, or?
Well, when he first showed up, he had already been drinking. Could tell, but he wasn't very drunk. It was very clear he was like severely inebriated
So,
when he
so
came
you're
back.
alleging, so you're alleging when he came back, he was inebriated. Let me go to Angelique, because Angelique, I know you have little questions about this story, because this is what I heard from someone else, and I think this is kind of playing on the behavior that was in the letter and what was spoken about with our last guest. You wanted to ask Nikki some questions about a little bit of the story. Can I go to you?
There's just a lot to take in, quite honestly, just because I know that in conjunction with my own personal experience, when he was coming, he came and he sat and he watched the show and he wanted to see the show. And literally one of the entertainers that night that afternoon were very, like, they were visibly distraught about, like, just already upset about something. And then he did not make the situation any better. And during the show and during the number, I could see, like, when I was performing, his attention, or lack thereof, or like things that he liked, things that he didn't like. He's very much the kind of person who is personified on his face and his attention and things like that. You had an opportunity to walk away and stay away, and you said that was kind of your intention.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was the deciding factor for you to attempt to go back, or your deciding factor to even step back in the firing range, I should say, like, having dealt with that?
Well, it's the fact that 2 days later, he had actually requested a meeting between me, the GM at the time, and our production manager. And he, actually apologized to me for that, and still viewed me as an asset, I guess, so to speak, and didn't really want to lose me or what I could offer. Right. So me being naive, like, okay, he apologized, maybe this won't happen again, because this was like the first instance I'd ever, like, seen or dealt with that side of Jeff, So I just chose to forgive and move on, and periodically over time it just kept happening over and over and over and over again.
Just to preface this and just to kind of put it out there, when did you sign the NDA? Was the NDA signed on arrival, on joining, or was the NDA signed at some point in time between you taking the position and now? And but around that time.
It was signed, I want to say, right before I was supposed to start writing the production shows. The NDA basically consists.
So prior to the stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to timeline it so that just in case if anybody else didn't understand, or like or why that's a part of this.
Yeah, it was before I actually did any of the work.
Okay, and then so the follow-up question is, with signing the NDA, and I understand that you were, naive to go back and, go back in under the guise of being valued and worshipped, or not worshipped, but valued and, like, needed, being a necessity.
Yeah.
But I feel like when those things started happening, and it's happening to not only just you, like 9 out of 10 times when these things happen, they happen and you feel singled out. But in this case, you keep talking about Cleo and other people who I've seen in these situations, and I'm like, why? Like, just because I'm pretty sure other people are going to want to know, why wouldn't you just walk away? I get that maybe you're not that beloved in the community, which you said he held against you, and different rules and things like that. But why not take yourself out of the picture? Because in that moment, you know your worth, you know your value. You've been told that you have value, and you allowed yourself to be in a position to not do that. And I have to do this because it's the same thing I would do for an abuse victim. It's the same thing I would do for somebody who's been in a bad setup. Like, what was your core value? Was it, more or less for the show, for the love of the art? Was it because you just desperately wanted a second chance, redemption? What was it for you?
For me, it was redemption. I felt like I had something to prove. I felt like I was given something, like, so amazing and so beautiful, and I had the chance to actually show people in the community, like, my worth. And that was basically it. That's the only reason I stayed as long as I did.
I think the prospect of it might have outweighed it, but I'm sorry you had to deal with that and you had to go with that. I truly do. I wish that people like this didn't have power, because it's really sad to have that kind of space and venue and to put other people through this.
And let's go to Nikki. I'm sorry, Angelique. We're running.
No, no,
I
you're good. I
agree
was just
with
saying
you.
I'm sorry for Nikki. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because like people go through this, and it's like we're seeing this like in hindsight. It's like where were
Yeah.
we when this is going on? Let me go to Nikki. I'm just running out a little bit of time, but Nikki, do you have any questions for Nikki? And
Well,
do you have any questions? And how did you feel about his story
I mean,
or their
I
story?
am also just so sorry that you had to go through something like that. And not that it was a domestic abusive relationship, so to speak, but I understand to some degree how it is to get into something where it seems great and what it's so amazing and it sounds great and it's the dream job,
Mhm.
the dream situation, and to just want to believe that and trust and then be let down so terribly. I can 100% understand how you wanted to make it work, especially if there
Mhm.
was, he made you believe that he was going to change and make things better. And that's the part that makes me the most angry, because he would have had such a phenomenal, amazing thing if he had treated people with the respect that they deserved. It's such a small thing to do, and it sounds like he caused a lot of havoc. And I really am sorry for you and anyone else that you worked with that had to deal with this kind of thing, because that should never happen, ever.
Do you think there's any veracity or any like because this is all allegedly happened, allegedly? Do you think there's any veracity in these stories that you've heard today, Nikki, or any truthfulness?
I mean, I can't like it's to me it sounds nothing that I've heard today or last week's episode sounds, or just from, the things that I've heard in passing, which haven't been a ton, but none of it sounds made up. And it's one thing for just one person to be spouting madness about an employer that he or she may not get along with, but this isn't that. This sounds and feels very, very real to me. And just the honesty behind the stories that I've heard are very telling. The way that they're being told, as in a way to spread awareness and truth about this situation, I think also is very telling of the fact that, like, I don't see anything made up here. I just see a really crappy situation that allegedly a lot of people did not deserve to go through.
I'm gonna put a button on this episode because I'm running out of time. But I just wanted to say this last thing. I see that it seems like substance abuse is a part of this. Because I've like when I heard the story from another source. This source was like, how this person gets, and like I've heard that said about me back when I was going through everything. Like how Sean gets, and I'm like, no, I don't. How does she get? But to see that, I kind of hear that. But I kind of want to ask you guys, this last question, really quick. Everybody gets a minute. Um, with all these people coming out and sharing their story, what do you think the purpose is? Do you think the purpose is to just completely tear this person down, or to genuinely make our community better? And to start this off, I'm going to go to Nikki. So remember the Nikki Silva. To start this question off, remember the question is: with all these people coming out and sharing their story about this certain venue, is it just to take him down, or is it to genuinely make this community better? And that's the answer. How could they do that in one
I
minute?
guess I would say accountability, atoning, for your wrongdoings, it'd be nice to get a public apology, and it would also be nice for him to do better in the future. That's all I want. I think that's all everybody else who worked there in the past. I mean, like, it's a place for everyone.
If it were me, I would want the same things. I would want accountability, an apology, and yes, to do better moving forward. I think at that point, I would probably be done regardless. I mean, maybe not with as many hard feelings if I were to receive if I know somebody sorry for what they did and they actually understand their wrongdoing, that goes a long way with me. Doesn't mean I'm gonna hop right back in, but it doesn't sound. I can't imagine anyone's wanting to be. No, nobody's out to get him. They just want that accountability and that, at least if not apology outright, then recognition that wrong was done.
Honestly, at the beginning of this, I had hopes to say something much better, but at this point, I feel like there isn't anything that I can expect, because what would need to be done would be greater than I think is possible. Because this is not something you can just apologize your way out of. This is not something that is as easily done as just, you know, saying I'm sorry and putting up an extra flag and having, you know, a trans day of visibility. This is going to require a lot of actual work. And if that person doesn't want to do the work, then no apology, face forward or written or televised, is going to change how that person acts. And what would need to be done, I think, is already done by some of the other employees that are there, who choose to stay and be the very good that's left of that establishment. The owner needs to step back and be less a part of things, and do the job of managing the things that they're entitled to manage, like money, and let the delegation of the task of the show director and the assistant managers do their work. And they should not be front facingly involved with any more employees going forward. That's what I would like to see, for them to just step back and be an owner and act as such, and let their actual staff that they've hired to do the work do the work. Because they should never have had interaction with Nikki directly head on. They should have never had action directly with any of the other staff members there who might feel this way. And their presence in that building should not change the environment or the stability of the workplace. That's what I feel. So that's an action that can be taken.
Absolutely.
But I really, outside of that, I don't think anything else would be worth my time.
I mean, you know, because like I have to, I hear Angelique and I'm like, yeah, because like I almost feel the same way, like that you've gone too far. But like, I mean, I just always, I'm trying to be optimistic sometimes, you know, but also a devil's advocate, because sometimes you can go too far. As long as you're right, though, if you don't put the work in, if you don't want to take those steps, then it's not going to change. I think that's what people wanted, a culture of change and a culture of a safe space. And like I said, this is all alleged, you know. The opinions expressed in this episode is solely opinions, you know. I just think this conversation was needed because I heard a lot of things around and about the city as I started to go back out again. But we are out of time. I want to thank our sponsors, Tampa Bay Gay and Bulge Apparel and Gifts. I want to thank my awesome co-host for always being here and present for this show. And I also want to thank our guest, Nikki Silva. I want to thank our guest, Nikki Silva, for having the bravery to come on and share your story. And I wanted to thank all the people that came to me, even our anonymous letter with the bravery of writing that. You know, I want to thank Lilith as well. So we'll see you guys next week. We're planning to have Brianna Summers on. So until next week, try to have a little bit more common courtesy. We'll see you next time.